Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hello, we have such a gift for you today. I'm so happy you're joining us. We are sitting down with Ganesh Balachandran, who is an electrical engineer turned enlightened sage. He has spent his life learning about engineering. He has a PhD in that field. However, his soul's passion and true interest has really been founded in the ancient spiritual texts of India, being born and raised in India. He's studied the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads extensively, and he used to do a lot of long-distance running, but needed a hip replacement surgery and started to practice meditation. And this led him down a really interesting path of exploring back into his cultural roots. So exploring India and philosophy and the spiritual teachings, even at a deeper level. And he had some very profound experiences meditating, and you will feel it in this interview. You will feel it as he chants the sutras from the Bhagavad Gita. You will feel it in how he speaks with such kindness, such presence, such sattva or purity in his mind and in his language. It's a real treasure, this interview, and I love how he really emphasizes that even though the physical postures of yoga have benefited him greatly on a physical level and can be of benefit to all of us, the real yoga is something that we live every day of our lives, throughout every interaction and in everything we're doing. And if you'd like to dive even deeper into this idea of spiritual wellness, I hope you'll join me Sunday, June 16th for my spiritual wellness workshop. It is a free offering. I'm only asking that you donate to Yoga Gives Back. All of the money will go directly to Yoga Gives Back when you donate. So join me online. It is open to everyone, and I would just love to work with you using many different tools like asana, pranayama, meditation, chanting, and then diving a little bit more into the philosophy, exploring some of the deeper philosophical concepts found in yoga. So I look forward to seeing you Sunday, June 16th, in honor of Yoga Gives Back. And if nothing else, I hope that this interview will inspire you to give back to India, the heartland, the homeland of yoga, and just support the wonderful organization that Yoga Gives Back is. Ganesh offers his own philosophy courses on the Bhagavad Gita and workshops throughout the month. And you can find all of these links in our show notes. So let's jump into this interview. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm so thrilled you're here today. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you for introducing me.
I know you like to get your word in before our guests even.
Good morning.
Good morning. Guess who we have today that we're chatting with?
Dr. Balachandran?
Yeah.
I don't think he's a doctor, though. I think he is an engineer.
He's a doctor. He has a PhD.
He has a
obviously.
PhD? Oh, it says it right
Fake
there
doctor.
on the show. Dr. Balachandran.
Ganesh Balachandran.
Ganesh.
Hello. How are you, Ganesh?
I'm doing very well and great to be with you.
It's so wonderful to have you here. But are you a PhD? Do you have a PhD in engineering?
Correct. Yeah, it's not a MD.
No. And that's also what you do for your profession.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I do for my profession.
Which is really interesting. You know, when I was in philosophy and studying philosophy at the University of Calgary, often, actually, I learned an interesting kind of connection that would happen. A lot of engineers would actually come into the philosophy department and really loved philosophy. And I was curious why so many engineers were coming in to do like a master's of philosophy or a doctorate of philosophy. One of the interesting things I think with the engineers is that you're used to building things in the physical world with objects and constructing things and deconstructing things and remaking them, right?
Yeah.
And I think with philosophy, and probably you found this with even listening to the text and thinking about philosophy, is doing this with ideas and concepts, which is really interesting, that how you talk about Advaita Vedanta and yoga being so similar. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because a lot of people say they're quite different, and that, you know, there's no Atman in yoga, there's no Brahman in yoga. And, you know.
In fact, I was talking about that this morning. So this is a very good question, actually, what Vedanta and yoga are. In a nutshell, I'll tell you the difference. So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, they borrow their philosophy from Sankhya. So Sankhya and yoga are like kinds of sister philosophies. Yoga practice, so there's yoga philosophy and yoga practice, right? So the yoga practice is accepted by Vedanta. The yoga philosophy is rejected by Vedanta. And in fact, Shankara says the Sankhya is the greatest Malyuddham, the wrestler. It is the biggest wrestler I had to wrestle with. And he says, because I've defeated Sankhya, I've also defeated yoga. But he says, we accept all the practices of yoga. So the philosophy is rejected, but the practices 100% approved by Vedanta. And why the difference is that in Sankhya, they talk about many Purushas. So this Atma, the consciousness, there are many consciousness. Whereas in Vedanta, Sankhya and Yoga, there's many consciousness. In Vedanta, there's only one Brahman. And this is the beautiful example they give in Vedanta. So there's one Brahman, but inside all of us, there's what is called the Chid Abhasa. That is, Abhasa means reflection. The reflection of the consciousness. It is called the reflected consciousness. The example Shankara gives is, you have these pots. So here people won't be familiar with pots, but in India there's water scarcity. So you fill water and line up. That's what I used to do when I was young. So line up pots, and there's sun. Of course, India there's no lack of sun. So sun shining bright. And in each pot in the water, you see a reflected sun. Like that, in each person, you have a reflected consciousness. So this is what powers the system. But the original consciousness, it is one. So in yoga, there is multiple Purushas, whereas in Vedanta, there is only one Purusha. So this is the biggest difference. Other than that, there is not much difference between yoga and Vedanta. So all the philosophies, everything is accepted.
So that's so interesting. I just want to ask you one more question about Sankhya specifically, because that's often a question that students ask me is, in Sankhya, is it many Purushas? Is it like we each have like our own little soul in Christianity? And then how does that relate to the big Purusha, the main Purusha?
Very good question. So, okay, that's where yoga differs. In yoga, it says, Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. There's a special Purusha called Ishvara. And this Purusha, it's beyond time, space, everything. Kalena Vachidnath, Purusha Vishesha Ishvaraha. Whereas in Sankhya, there is no concept of God. There's no, just Purusha Prakriti. That's all you need. There's no God at all. You don't need God to explain anything. You don't need this Brahman or the super consciousness, whatever.
So this idea of Ishvara, I know like in the Yoga Sutras, Om is
Pranava,
the
tasya vacha
embodiment.
pranavaha.
Yeah. But it could also be an incarnation of spiritual energy or entity or something like that as well, yeah?
So you're talking about the Ishvara, right? As incarnation of spiritual...
Yeah, like could it be Shiva or...
Yeah. So,
Kali or
yeah. So, okay, very, very good question. So,
Christ?
Swadhyaya Ishtadevata Samprayoga. So, what Patanjali says is that there is a concept of Ishtadevata, and he doesn't exactly say. So, this is left to our imagination. This Ishvara and this Ishtadevata, are they one and the same? The special Purusha, probably. So, you're probably correct. Whereas in Vedanta, it's slightly different. Vedanta in Mundaka Upanishad, no, Chandogya Upanishad, they give this beautiful example. So there's only consciousness. That is the supreme entity, one pervading consciousness. Then there is something called Maya. That is the inert principle. So these two are considered like Shiva and Shakti. It's just because it's not like one is female or one is male. It's just that Brahman is considered the male aspect. Maya is considered the female aspect. It doesn't matter. It's just the gender. In Sanskrit, every word has a gender, so it's because of that. But they both have been there for a long time. But this Maya has no independent existence. It has to rely on Brahman to be able to do anything. And therefore, Brahman is considered like a spider. So to do anything, let's say you want to do a desk, you need instrumental costs, and then there is a material cost. The material cost is the wood. The intelligent cost is the carpenter. So like that, nimitta karanam and upadana karanam. So nimitta karanam is the intelligent cost, and upadana karanam is ordinary, the material cost. So they give the example of the spider. The spider is both the intelligent and the material cause of the web. Like that, this Brahman is the one cause, and the Maya is dependent on this. So it is both the intelligent and the material cause of the universe.
My goodness, I understand how you reached a form of Kundalini opening or enlightenment just by listening to yoga talks and Dharma talks. As you've explained that in your bio, that it was sitting and listening to a Dharma talk that led you to your current state.
So no, so what had happened was I'd been since I was growing up, my dad would keep talking about this. At that time, I didn't want to listen to all this because I was thinking, oh, I'm a science student, I shouldn't believe all that. So I was very rebellious at that time. My dad is no more, but when in my 40s, so I injured my hip. I used to be a runner, and I injured my hip, and I was in a lot of pain. So I was trying everything under the sun, stem cell, all that. I didn't want to go through a hip replacement surgery right away, but I was living with a lot of pain. So I learned to meditate on pain. So there is also one Zen teacher here. He teaches meditation on pain. So I was trying all that. And one day I went to this Dharma talk, and there the teacher talked about this Supta Buddha. He was a poor leper. And Buddha was giving a talk to 100 people or 200 people, large crowd. So the poor, hungry leper, he had leprosy, and the leprosy is all the sores. And when seeing this big crowd, he thought, maybe I'll get some food to eat there. So he starts walking towards that. And this person had a pure mind because all he wanted was some food, no blemishes. The Buddha saw that this person was capable of receiving this information. So he pointed his talk at him, and he talked a few words. And Supta Buddha, his name was Supta Buddha, he got enlightened there. So that shows the power of these words. He chose those words from a meditative state of mind. Patanjali says this, Tatra Dhyanajam Anashayam. Anything that comes from a meditative state of mind leaves ashaya, is residue of attachment, clinging. It has no ashaya. It is just pure. When great composers like Mozart, Beethoven, they compose, it comes from somewhere. There is no ego involved. It's so pure. That is why there's no effort in it. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi describes this as a flow state. You are just the instrument. It's just flowing through you. Nimitta matram bhava savyasachan. Krishna says that. Just be my instrument and shoot arrows. don't know kartrutvam, no doership. Don't associate doership. Nimitta matram bhavasavya, he says that.
That's my experience of being involved in an art form is you getting out of the way and letting the flow happen. It is an unfortunate irony that it happens so quickly. And so once you're out of the way and the flow state is happening, there is no consciousness of time. It is a kind of samadhi, and then it's over before it began, and you don't get to enjoy the thing.
Yeah.
So, go
yeah.
ahead.
But it is they call this pleasure hlada, which is refined pleasure. So the enjoyment you're saying, so this hlada is when all the desires they recede, and that is enjoyment.
I have one follow-up question on this point. This is so fantastic, and I want to make sure we continue to get his biographical details. But that said, there was a apropos to this. I mentioned earlier about karma and how karma could be. I'm asking, can it be construed as a kind of explanation for our circumstances? It's like, well, I'm working class, hoping to be middle class white person from the United States, which is a terribly unfortunate circumstance. And so how can I explain my circumstances except through karmic actions from the past? And that would explain why I'm not in a more preferable state, say like a wealthy billionaire in New York, who may or may not be on trial. So my concern is with this construct of karma and preference, that how does that align with Advaita, where what need do I have for preferable states? If I can be some kind of slug, I can still achieve enlightenment just for the fact of being a slug.
That's a very good question. This is okay. I'll give you a short version because karma.
No, the long one, please.
Okay, there are a few things. So slug. Okay, in Advaita, in the karma theory, both in yoga as well as Advaita Vedanta, it is only in Manushya Janmam you can accumulate karma. In a slug Janma, you kind of the karma, either your papam or punyam, whatever you can call it, that is getting extinguished. In the Manushya Janmam alone, you can have fresh karmas. In the Deva Shariram, it is in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Tetam bhukva swargalokam vishalam shine punye matya lokam vishanti yevam trayi dharmam anuprapanna gata gatam kama kama labante. So these people, a lot of people, they think, oh, I want to go to the heavens. So they actually, in India, it's very common. They do pujas so they can go to the heavens. They attain heavens. Tetam bhuktva, having attained the heavens. Swargalokam. What kind of Swargaloka? It's like Las Vegas 100 times. Wide roads, beautiful malls, everything. Vishalam Swargalokam. Just grand, like freeways, beautiful. Everything is big there. Vishalam says, Swargalokam Vishalam. Then what? Shine Punye. After all the punya is extinguished, bank balance 0. Matyalokam Vishanti. You enter Matyalokam, the world, mortal world of deaths. That's our world. So they enter. And what do? They keep doing the same things. Evam trayi dharmam anuprapanna gata gatam. We come and go like a revolving door in the airport. They come and go. Gata gatam kama kama labante. They want desires after desires. I want to go to heaven. This kama kama labante. They get those desires too. So even when you go to the Deva Lokam, you don't accumulate karma. So there are 14 lokas. We are the 8. So there are 7 below, and then there are 6 above, all the way to Brahma Loka. And in those lokas, apparently, you go, because you've done a lot of punya. In the 6th chapter, Bhagavan Krishna says, you asked this, so I'll reply to this. So I have this circumstance. You feel that your situation is not great. What can I do to improve? And in there, Bhagavan Pattabhi Joyce actually was used to say this. The fact that you have found yoga is the greatest boon that you can get. And why is that? This person, apparently, let's say in this your lifetime, you're not able to become a great yogi and attain siddhis and all that. You, after this lifetime, you will go reside in the heavens for long time. And in the sixth chapter, actually, the whole thing it said. So it's called the on Yoga Brashta. So the Yoga Brashta, it's coming from Arjuna's question. Arjuna asked the question: what if a person fail in this lifetime? What is the fate of that person? Kachinno bhaya viprashtaha chinna brahmiva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapatihi. This person has not achieved success in this lifetime, nor has this person achieved success in yoga, nor has this person accumulated wealth like that New York billionaire. What is the fate of this yogi? Then Bhagavan says, please, you tell me how to, my doubt, solve this for me. And Bhagavan says, पार्थनैवेह नामुत्र विनाशस्तस्य विद्यते न हि कल्याणकृत् कश्चित् दुर्गतिं तात गच्छति. This person will not end up in a bad state. And why is that? That is because this person प्राप्य पुण्यकृतान् लोकान् उषित्वा शाश्वती समा शुचीनां श्रीमतां गेहे yoga prashto bijayate. So this yogi who thinks he's born, he's unfortunate and all that, that yogi should know that he's found the greatest wealth, because that yogi is going to attain the righteous worlds, having dwelt there for thousands of years. Shashvata sama, many years. They who have fallen from yoga in a previous lifetime, they will take the birth in the homes of the pure and the wealthy. Wealthy means wealth of knowledge. And he goes on like this. Athava yoginameva kule bhavati dhimata yetatti dhurlabataram loke janma yadish drisham. This kind of birth is so difficult to attain in this world. So that's what Bhagavan says. So to answer your question, this, it may look in the short time scale, like in this minuscule time scale, may look things are a little difficult, but then if you see, zoom out and see, it is all good for the yogi.
Well,
It's all good for the yogi.
As Batabi Joyce would say to us, practice, practice, practice,
Yeah.
always coming. And then we would whisper under our breath, is always coming, including poverty. Everything is coming. And that's my point, actually, is that what need have I for future boons if the sole point of Advaita is to recognize that all is coming, including nothing.
Yeah. Then I think, so we need to do transactions in this world, we need some amount of money. But santushtaha, this sense of satisfaction, for that you don't need too much money. But again, poverty is not a good thing. But to answer your question, so it could be a blip due to the prarabdha. But the good thing is all that bad balance is getting cleared, and yoga is purifying. And future, we never know when the next birth, our next birth, can be now, can be 1,000 years later. The sukshma shariram has to find the right place. The way it's described so powerfully in the Vedas, this body is a place of rent for the sukshma shariram.
Can you explain for our listeners what the
Yes, I'm going to do that.
shariram?
Yes, in Vedanta as well as yoga, our body is, so we can classify, just like they classify people as men and women, young and old, short and tall. So you can classify the body in many different ways. One way is Shariratrayam, another way as Panchakosha, another as states of experience. So the Shariratrayam is where the three bodies come. So the three bodies are the gross. It doesn't mean there's anything gross about it, but it's opposite of subtle. Gross
It's
means
often gross.
Yes. That may be true too, because we abuse our bodies, right? Yeah. It's a tangible body. So let's just say
Yes.
tangible body. And this is the tangible body. And then there is the subtle body, Shukshma Shariram. Subtle body consists of the mind and all the pranas. And there's much more. There's 19 components, 17 or 19. That Pancha Prana, and then there is the 4 parts of the mind, the 5 pranas, the 5 organs of knowledge, Jnanendriya, that is Sparsha, sound, all the 5 senses. When they talk about the senses, they are not talking about the Golakam. Golakam is this ears, all these things. They are talking about the power of perception for the eyes and hearing, all that. And then the 5 organs of action, Karmendriyani, Vak, speech, Pani, Padam, the feet, hands, Payu, that is the excretory organ, and Upastha, the reproductive organ. And then there are 4 parts of the mind. Some people say 2, 4. There's Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, and the Chit. So all these come under the subtle body. It's subtle because it's not easily seen. Another person can see our hands, face, everything, but they cannot read the mind unless they are a yogi. And the Siddhis, Patanjali actually says, parachitta jnanam. So pratyayasya parachitta jnanam, by meditating on your pratyaya, your screen of the mind, you can read others' minds, but we are not talking about those super people. So this is the Sukshma Sharira. So this is the subtle body. The physical body is like a place of rent for the subtle body. And what is the rent? The rent is your karma from the previous janma. You pay it up front. And once the rent gets over, the prarabdha karma is dissolved. The body does not have any use. This is how Shankaracharya describes it. This is not what I came up with. This is in Shastra. And the body, it leaves. So advance rent using previous janma punyam and papam. And once it's vacancy, once it's over, that's it. The office space is vacated. Then they go looking for the next space for transactions. And the karma based on rent paid by this lifetime transactions, the cycle continues.
This is so interesting because people often struggle to understand karma. I think it's one of the most complicated, difficult things to understand in Indian philosophy. But I like this idea of you rent this office space, which is our physical body, and we're performing actions, which is karma, right? Karma's action. We get this space based on past actions.
Correct.
Now we have the space, so now we're performing transactions and different actions in this space. And when this space is finished, based on the rent that we've paid in advance, based on past actions, this space goes, and all the transactions we've done in this space move us into our next space that we're renting.
100%. You told it so well.
It's so good.
Yeah. And this is it's given, this definition is given in Tattva Bodha. So there are all these prakarana granthas. So before we study Vedanta, there are these introductory texts which define all this for lay people.
You know, I'm struggling with this, and I think it might be because of this kind of Shaivite, Vaishnavite contrast or conflict that I feel that the Vaishnavite obviously will want to take care of their children and their home, and also perhaps make some good works towards future incarnations of this Purusha. But
it's the karma that gets
the karma gets reincarnated. Yes. So you want to farm well, but I feel like perhaps the Shaivite has no use for this, and is like, well, what difference does it make? You know, what do you care if your children are thriving or or not?
But I think this goes back to that story, which is like a very funny Advaita Vedanta story that I think you've probably heard, or the metaphor of, I think Sri Shankaracharya is running down the street away from a bull chasing him, and someone says, "Guru, I thought everything was Maya. Why are you running from this bull? It's Maya. It doesn't exist." And he says, "Yes, my running is Maya too." I mean, which I think speaks to the fact that, like what you're saying, we live on this plane of existence. We have behavioral reality where, we need to eat and go to the bathroom and work and live and function. But ultimate reality is something that's kind of existing simultaneously with behavioral reality, but also
Yeah.
in a realm of its own.
Yeah. Actually,
Beautiful.
you raised a very good point. May I tell a short joke? Vedanta joke?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. So you hit it so perfectly. In Vedanta, there's this joke. So Aham Brahmasmi. So the age, when I say I, it refers not to the body, not to the mind. It is the consciousness, because I am the witness. If when you meditate, you can see thoughts in the mind. So you can see that you are not enmeshed with the mind. So anything that's the object is not you. So you are the consciousness. Okay. And the consciousness has no birth. So once a Vedanta, a person who's studying Vedanta, he applies for a job. First line, name, he puts his name. Then here it says date of birth. He says not applicable.
Not applicable.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I exist forever.
Swamiji says, no, when you are transacting with the world, and Bhagavad Gita very beautifully says, Pashyan Shrinvan Sprishan Chitran Ashnan Gachan Swapan Swashan Pralapan Visrajan Grindan Unmishan Nimishan Napi. When doing all these activities, using the toilet, going, speaking, running, lying down, you know that you have to do all these transactions. You cannot avoid them. Not Shanamapi, even for a minute, Jatya Akarta, without doing things, you cannot remain. Bhagavan Krishna says that. But you do all this knowing fully well it is my gunas which are pushing me. I can't escape that. But I, the consciousness, am not the doer. You have to do what is needed, and at the same time, things that are good. But you are the witness. And there's a very subtle thing, because this is actually a very confusing and tricky point. Because in the Mahabharata also, can I tell another small story?
Yes, please.
Yeah. This evil guy, Duryodhana, you heard he is the villain, right?
Yeah.
Of Mahabharata.
Yeah.
So Krishna tries to go broker peace with Kauravas. So he goes and he tells Duryodhana, don't do these bad things. Then Duryodhana says, Janami dharmam nachame nivritti pravrittihi. Janam adharmam nachame nivrittihi. Tenapi devena krudistitena. Yata niyotsmi tata karomi. He pure puts it on the Ishvara that lives in the heart. He says, I know what is dharma, but I cannot do it. I know what is adharma, unrighteousness, but I cannot help not do it. Tenapi devena, the deva, the Lord that resides in my heart, whichever way it pushes me, I will do it. And there's a big fallacy with that, because he says it's beyond my control. No, you have your karma determines your tendencies, but you have the free will. There are certain things which if you are born with some eye problem, there's nothing you can do. That's the karma. But you can do enough to take care of it. Same thing. If some people will have a tendency to steal, this is true. They have the tendency, but there is a certain portion of it which can steer that and put that into more productive use. So these people become great detectives too, apparently. So
and kleptomaniacs.
So
My goodness.
You have to transfer these activities from the bad quadrant to the good quadrant. So there's good and the bad, and there's proclivity. It's something that goes with the swabhava and against the swabhava. So
like the Catch Me If You Can fellow became a very good detective. The con man became a very, very good detective. I have a follow-up question, but you want to talk, evidently.
I think that's so interesting, because I love this actually about yoga and Indian philosophy, including even Buddhism. This idea that it's not so much like good or bad or evil and righteous, but more dharma, adharma, right? Or helpful and harmful.
Himsa, ahimsa.
So it's the things that are either moving us aligned with sort of the cosmic law of order and harmony and balance and peace and prosperity and all these things, and the things that go against it. And sometimes things that look like they're going against it might actually be in flow with it too. And so it's that sort of analogy of the knife, right? The knife itself isn't good or bad.
Exactly.
It just is a knife. It is what it is.
Yep.
And it's how you're using it. And that's, I think, what you're kind of pointing to, is that stealing in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's, you know, possibly a gift, right?
Robin Hood,
Yes.
Yeah.
Depending on how you're using this gift of being able to move things, you know, if you look at it without any kind of connotation of good or bad or right or wrong, you're simply moving something from one place to another in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Indian philosophy is so good that way.
You said it so well, because this is exactly consciousness is talked about. Consciousness is the light. It's like a light. And in presence of the light, a neurosurgeon conducts surgeries. And in presence of light, there are things that are getting robbed. All the bad things happen too. So can you blame light for that?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. There's a lovely video in your Yoga Philosophies PowerPoint of this British man talking about it. Your job as a meditator is to watch the road, and then you inevitably get involved with the traffic and want to help direct the traffic on the road. There's some kitten on the road or something. It's like, oh, I should really think about that. It's like, no, your job was to watch the road, and that's it. I think a common sticking point for the North American coming to India is this issue with sin and expectation for sin. I think this I think piggybacks on Harmony's point of Dharma Adharma very nicely. Is that in encountering Krishna and his concept of the householder's duty, say Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, two of those are sinful. And so I'm immediately confused. It's like, well, any kind of money is going to be a sin. I'm here in India and my yoga teacher's profiting off of me. That's a sin. And I'm meeting girls in Mysore and like I'm sinful. Like I know I am, but it's
Well, explain what Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha are, because sometimes maybe the listeners don't know.
Yes, thank you, Harmony, for helping set that up. That's
so very good. In fact, I was thinking about this sin topic, and you brought it up. So, there is the Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about it a lot, about these 4 topics. And the context is that the entire Bhagavad Gita was because Arjuna wanted to flee the battlefield, become a sannyasi, renunciant, which means he wants to go sit in the forest and meditate. And Krishna is trying to tell him, Arjuna, you are just not suited for this kind of thing. You are born a warrior. And later, his brother, so these guys keep doing the same thing in Mahabharata. His brother Yudhishthira does this thing. Before ascending the throne, he is filled with remorse and guilt for having killed his cousins. So he says, no, I'm not going to take this throne. I am a sinner. I have to go sit in the forest and meditate. At that time, Arjuna chips in and says, Yudhishthira, if all the Brahmins there, if they see a tiger or lion, because they don't have any, they call vairam, which is violence, and therefore those animals will stay clear of them. They don't perceive them as prey. So, ahimsa pratishtapyam tatsannito vairatyagaha, in the Yoga Sutras it says that. So, it's their energy that they emanate, and they also have tapobalam. Because of their tapas, they can stop an animal. Whereas if you go there, it'll be a river of blood. You will just take your sword and chuck. So you are unsuited.
Agreed.
So,
You're unsuited.
100% is correct.
Yeah. But anyway, so these 4 things are Artha, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. These are the 4 pursuits, right? So the grihastha life, the householder, kama, so for them, all those four are valid. You can do all that. For the sannyasis, only the moksha, because they've renounced everything. Their only goal is moksha. Dharma,
Moksha being liberation
liberation. Yes,
from
moksha,
like mind,
liberation from the
body.
cycle of
From
samsara, birth, death, birth,
yeah,
death, birth, getting
Right.
liberated from that. That is
Full
moksha.
liberation.
Yeah,
Up and out.
up
freedom
and out.
from Rajadvesha.
Yes.
Yeah, Ragadvesha.
Then this dharma, artha, and kama, even kama, Bhagavan says, dharmaya virudyo, I am the kama which is not opposed to dharma. So there is nothing wrong in kama also. But the problem comes when you develop this strong, like it's a raga, literally means this craving. And Patanjali also talks about all these different types of sorrow. And he says that the one, so when you have an ice cream, when you finish eating the ice cream, the desire, that the sorrow that it has ended, that is one type of sorrow. And then you're thinking about it later somewhere, and then that is a different type. So there are all these sorrows. So this the raga is this craving. That is what causes the problem. And he says, if you are able to enjoy, then let go. Then it's fine. So Swami Sarvapriyananda, he would give this example. The sannyasis, it's not like they're just eating meager food every day. Their routine is like this: dal, roti, and dal. One day, next day, dal and roti. So it's like that. Same, right?
Different
Which
order,
is served
same
first.
thing.
That's it. But on occasionally on a Saturday or Sunday, there's a big wedding ceremony happening in Rishikesh. Then they call all these holy people. They're treated with an elaborate feast. So they go and enjoy that. But they know next day it's dal and roti. So they know that. So it's like that. When the desert comes and you're able to enjoy it without breaking dharma rules, that's totally fine. But don't fall a prey to that. So that is, so we cover dharma as righteousness, karma, and artha is, yeah.
Just to before you move on to artha, I want to also understand if it can you have raga towards dharma or raga towards moksha?
Yeah,
like
so actually that's a very good question.
Like craving,
an
moksha,
excessive craving for these things.
Yeah.
That's quite
Dharma
unsettling.
being righteousness, or like how else would you explain dharma? Like your purpose or fulfillment of the cosmic order?
All these are like heavily weighted questions. You're asking,
I know.
You're all. I think you were for 1,000 lifetimes. You were all like great Vedantins, because the way you guys are asking the questions.
Color of my skin, bro.
No, skin doesn't matter. Your past life, you probably were like one of the Deva worlds, and you extinguished. And now you're here. Anyway, okay. The dharma, the word, it's a very highly weighted word. Dharma could just mean nature, and dharma can also mean righteousness. So a dharma of a lion is to hunt prey, kill, all that. That is its nature. And dharma can also mean right conduct, all these things. So here it is in the context of dharma as righteous values. So that is the context that is used here. And so, and Russell, what was your question? You asked
about excessive raga, excessive craving for purpose, or excessive craving for work, or excessive craving for liberation.
Yeah. So the Prakarana Granthas, so there's one called Atma Bodha, and the verse, it starts with Tapo Be Kshina Papanam Shantanam Vitaraginam Mumukshu Apekshoyam Atma Bodho Vidiyate. Mumukshu, that is a fierce thirst for liberation. So exactly what you're asking. And that is a valid thing. This thirst to get liberated. I want to be rid of all my problems. Patanjali says, Parinama tapa samskara dukkai gunavritti virodascha dukkameva sarpam vivekinaha. The wise people know even the greatest, like Buddha, he was a prince. Still he was suffering. The wise people know dukkam eva sarvam vivekinaha. The wise people, they know all this is suffering. So even if you are born in a very noble prince, as a prince, you can still suffer. So the only way to get out of suffering is to get out of the cycle of samsara. And that the strong desire is a legitimate desire for mumukshutvam. It's called mumukshutvam. That's the word. Mumukshu, this means one who has a strong desire for liberation. So for liberation, yes. For dharma, a strong desire. So usually what is said is dharma being it's a noble thing. When you have this sharp craving towards it, it'll automatically blunt it and make it refined, is what one Swami has, that's how he explained it. Because of the nature of this, even if you initially have this very strong way of approaching it, it'll get smoothed out. In fact, it is said in Krishnamacharya's, one of his books, which one is the yoga, anyway, there, it said initially you go with a lot of rajas, but later the whole thing will smoothen it and it'll become more sattvic. It's the nature of that.
But kama is a little dangerous. Kama being pleasure.
Yes, karma is something you have to be careful about. Best to limit it. But the Shastras don't say, if it comes your way, don't run away from that. It says you can feel free to pleasure yourself, but don't get caught in the grips.
Yeah.
Don't get caught
in the
like
grip
craving.
of the
in the grips.
Grip,
In the grips, yeah. I've been caught pleasuring myself.
In the grip.
And so, yeah, I've been. It's a terrible. Not even a crack of a smile from the man. Okay.
And then artha is the
wealth.
To move towards wealth, or the building of wealth.
Artha actually, so the word means security. So artha is object, objects of security. So that's the human pyramid also. Wealth is supposed to give security. So it's artha is generally construed as wealth. That is also perfectly fine. And as long as you don't have greed and hoarding too much. So aparigraha, one of the yamas that is talked about, is don't hold more than what you need.
Yeah, I love that. It's interesting. I'm having this sort of thought right now. These 4 aims of life that we're talking about here being kind of actually connected, I think, quite deeply and significantly to our sort of basic human needs. We just talked about artha being security. So that's like a basic need for all of us, is to feel secure. Dharma, we could look at it even like belonging, right?
Yes.
Because when you're doing adharmic things, you're not belonging, right? You're going against the order of your culture, your community. And so that relates to belonging to, in this divine download I'm having right now. And then kama being pleasure, which is also happiness, right? Like to experience happiness, to experience enjoyment, to experience joy or love, or, those qualities are also a basic human need that we have to have happiness in our life, right? Or joy. And then moksha, liberation, which I think is connected to the awareness that we all have, back to our Advaita Vedanta conversation, the awareness that actually we are presence, we are consciousness, we are actually just observing all of these things.
But also,
and that all of these things is just the play of being human.
That would be a relief of sorts, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because then you can actually really enjoy it all without getting attached.
Oh, Harmony, you said it so profoundly. So this is, in fact, so in the Vipassana tradition, this is what they say. The words you use, the observation. So between expression and suppression, there's a healthy alternative called observation. That is a huge liberating factor. So it's like a kid like doing, I'm sure your kids are all wonderful kids. I also have a daughter, she's very sweet. I've never had any of these issues. But sometimes kids do mischief, right? So you can
Oh,
yell at
yeah.
the kid or totally ignore, and
Mhm.
both are not good. But just observe. Then the fact that you're observing, the kid will stop doing the mischief. So this is why they say just observing all that is the best thing you can do. So the word you
Yeah.
use, it is so apt.
Yeah, and just meeting it. I love that you bring this analogy of the child, like meeting it with the sense of all these things are happening, because of they're trying to get one of these aims of life. And when we just observe it or meet it with compassion, with kindness, with love, with acceptance, we can then allow it to kind of do its thing and it will move on or stop, or it just wants to be seen and acknowledged, and
Yes.
then it kind of prevents us from making things worse.
Our Sanskrit teacher, Jayashri,
Yeah.
she had said once that, don't mind Russell. Russell is like a Balakrishna, and he makes everyone laugh. But it's the tendency, it can become problematic. And so I see that in our child. Our child is also a Balakrishna, and he likes to be naughty and mischievous, takes great joy in it. But then you can see it is a path that, you could get him arrested. And so
No.
the concern is like, how do you restrain your natural tendencies?
Yeah.
I don't know
So
if you need to restrain them. I
No,
think they're just
I'm concerned for his future.
no, they're just I think you bring love to them. When you bring love to any aspect of yourself that's acting out, it starts to transform.
You can be
I think
too
that's
naughty, I
the
think.
no. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's so beautiful. Such an amazing way of looking at all of these things and bringing them into our conversation here. So you have a weekly meeting of the Bhagavad Gita where
Yes.
people can listen to your beautiful chanting and receive your Dharma talks and
No, it's
study the
not
Gita
mine.
with you
So
online. Yes.
I don't take ownership. I just say I just use Swami Paramarthananda Saraswati's.
Yeah.
He is authority. So I just use his discourses and teachings, and I add a few stories. So people seem to like that from Mahabharata to make it a little more, little entertaining. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I make it in a slide format, but the content is not mine. It's very traditional. It's been handed down since Adi Shankaracharya. So that traditional is maintained, and I have like zero credit for that.
I'm interested in that one more point, and I know that we should probably kind of start to wrap up this. I'm really enjoying this, and I want to ask you, in your yoga philosophies PowerPoint, but yoga philosophies from ancient India, um, you mentioned how important the lineage is. It's
Yes.
one of the main topics in your talk.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned just now how you were teaching your teacher's lesson, which is just exactly what Patanjali said about the Yoga Sutra itself. He is not writing it, he is transmitting, finding, and presenting. And it's really a lovely and humble way to present any knowledge. Is that this is something that's being handed down. I wonder if you could talk about this lineage. What is the word we use?
Parampara.
Parampara.
Parampara, yeah, parampara.
Yeah. So my family, we were the Smarta Brahmins, which means very
Oh yeah,
similar to Pattabhijoy's tradition.
yeah.
So
That's right.
our guru, we follow Shankaracharya's teachings, Advaita Vedanta. And I've had several teachers, Swami Bodhananda, he's taught me a lot. And I follow Swami Paramatmananda Saraswati's discourses. And the important thing, so in one of the things that they say in India, if there is a teacher who claims to have come up with his own philosophy, flee from that person. That person is the greatest fraud.
Yeah.
So these things have been vetted down for generations, for so much. So there's a certain order. Even the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, once in a while, I see people, they come up with their own interpretation, which is, they say, science-based, no karma, nothing. But it's not correct. The whole, at some point, you will be tied up in knots. So it's best to interpret exactly as it is. And it has a For example, the Advaita and Vishishta Advaita, slight differences in one or two aspects, but most of it is the same. If we start changing things here and there, you will just contradict left, right, and center. And this is how Shankara debunked all the philosophies at that point, because they will self-contradict at one point. He was very good at that, finding where they are self-contradictory, and he'll debunk that philosophy.
Amazing.
And so the importance, this is something that I always appreciated about India and found so funny compared to the West. And you've probably run across this yourself growing up in India and then coming to the West and seeing how in India this idea of not taking credit and saying it comes from a long line of teachers, or it comes from, this is the lineage and I'm just sort of passing it along and, you know, giving it my own little spice, but not changing it, because we can't help but do that as personalities in the
Little
world.
stories.
Yeah, little stories. But in the West, I think Westerners very much are trained and encouraged to invent something new and to make it their own.
The avant-garde. Yeah.
And so have you noticed this difference in like India versus the West? And also, have you noticed that it's starting to change in India? I'm curious.
Oh, yeah. So now there's only one direction in the world, it's West.
Yeah.
So India is very, very West. So the India I grew up in the 1970s and 80s, it's very different. That's what I go there once in 2 years. My sister says that's not the same. You won't even understand these people. That's what she says.
Right.
It's changed so much. There is, with all the TV advertisement, but there is a little bit of the culture that remains in India still. Yeah, so the humility is considered very important, because I think there's a saying that the only thing worse than death is the sense of arrogance. So it's for anybody who's considered a scholar, the first thing they put is Vinaya. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Shuni Chaiva Shvapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. The wise people see everybody as same. Who? A very learned scholar, and before learned, they say Vinaya, which is humility. So for a scholar, the hallmark is humility. So that is, without the humility, there's something which is lost. So that is the feeling, especially in our communities, the Brahmin community. It's not so anymore. Even Pattabhi Jois, you see, beginning he was different, and towards the end he was different. But the simplicity and humility is very important. If I see my father, grandfather, they were all very simple in dress, what they wear, just a white khadi. That's very simple. So that kind of humility, the moment this, in fact, this is also a long topic for discussion. In the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it very clearly says, if you give a lot of money to a Brahmin, it's a disaster.
I agree.
Yeah, knowledge goes away. So same thing. It's all by guna karma vibhaga. Chatur varnam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagashaha tasya kartaram apimam vidya kartaram apyayam. I created this divisions based on the gunas, the tendencies. Some people are good at teaching, some people at administration, some people at doing business, all that. But it's not the profession itself. It is your guna which determines. Just because you are a teacher, some professors, they're good at making money. They want to just make more and more money. They are not a Brahmana, because they're more like a businessman. A true Brahmin would not hoard money, because that's the end of the knowledge. Some amount is needed. Go ahead.
Yeah, some amount is needed for livelihood.
Yeah.
One of the great pleasures of teaching in the Bay Area, and it was a great pleasure to meet you, sir. was that India was west of us, and Japan also west of us. And so it's really the West that's now, and that's where India is. And so
East and West is just terms, not
just,
really.
just words. But no, I joke. I just want to say again that you've done us a great honor, and being in Los Gatos with Moshe, and you approached us and talked to us, and you really did us a great honor by suggesting the show, and we really were very eager to have you on the show to talk about this, and I think you'd be such a great service to our audience, and I hope they all have take the opportunity to attend your Dharma talks, and so thank you again.
Yes, we're going to put a link in the show notes to where they can join you and learn from you and study from you a little, or study with you a little bit more. And just thank you so much for coming on our
Thank you. It's been
show
an honor.
Today. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I want to remind you of an incredible class that's open to you by donation. When you make a donation to Yoga Gives Back through my personal fundraising page, you will be invited to join my spiritual wellness workshop happening on June 16th. The recording will also be available. By participating, you're not only investing in your own spiritual growth, but you're also supporting an incredible charity, an incredible non-for-profit that I love and I truly believe in, Yoga Gives Back. It is dedicated to empowering women and supporting children in India through higher education and through microloans. And your donation isn't just a gesture, it is actually a lifeline for those in need. So mark your calendars, June 16th. Join me, find the link in my show notes, and come into a meaningful journey of yoga. Make your practice, your investment in yourself, fuel positive change around the world. Together, we can truly cultivate wellness, not only for ourselves, but for our whole world, especially for the women and the children, the young girls in India who need our support, who are being empowered by this money through education and microloans. Your donation is making a huge difference. I've seen it for myself and been so inspired to support and continue my support of this incredible non-for-profit organization. So reserve your spot now. Be a part of something bigger. And I just want to thank you for your generosity in advance. Come join Yoga Gives Back and join me in June supporting women, young girls, higher education, and women building businesses in India, which is incredible. I hope to see you there. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official. Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.